welcome back to another podcast episode of the Transfer Portal CFB presented by NoContextCFB. I'm Liam Blutman. I'll be your host for the day. We've got a dope episode for y'all, and we have our great guest today. It's Trevor Sikkema from PFF, College Football Reporter. Does a lot of good things there. NFL Draft too. He's very intelligent. We're happy to have him. Also with me is Dylan Rubenking and Andrew Wilson. So, happy to have all y'all today. And yeah, let's just get right into things with some NFL draft talk. I'm curious to know, because we're about halfway through a college football season. There's been a lot of good play going on. And one of the favorite things that everybody has with the NFL draft is sleepers. I want to ask you, Trevor, who's like your top sleeper or two that you have on your board right now?
Okay, so first of all, I appreciate you guys having me on the podcast. I absolutely love the No Context account. It's one of my favorite accounts on Twitter. So being on this podcast is really cool. Sleepers for the NFL draft. Okay, I have two that immediately come to mind. The first one is Jordan Whittington, the wide receiver from Texas. And he's just a redshirt sophomore. So he is draft eligible, but not a ton of people know about him because he's still pretty young. Like he would still have I believe 2 years of eligibility, even if he didn't leave this year. But man, he's so much fun. I mean, he is one of those guys that he's a contested catch machine. He's got an 80% contested catch rate right now, meaning if he is contested, guys are all over him, he's coming down with it almost 100% of the time, which is pretty crazy. It's sort of a small sample size, but this guy's going to be super reliable. For the NFL draft, I know we all love our separators, right? We love guys like Jerry Jeudy, like guys like Henry Ruggs, like guys who can either win with footwork or route running or just overall speed, and separation is definitely king. And so I understand that, but Jordan Whittington is so fun, man. If you throw the ball to him over the middle, he's mainly playing the slot. He's getting hit. He's taking contact, whatever. He's coming down with it. And he also, something I love about him, he's super emotional with how he plays. Like when he makes a big catch, he gets up and he like lets you know that he made a big play. And so like that always gets me super fired up. And I love when guys play into their emotion like that. So he's a guy that I really love. And then another player who it is their last year of school, so he'll be leaving no matter what, I believe. Florida running back Malik Davis. Malik was awesome as a freshman, as a scat back, as a speed guy, third down player, kind of being that pass protection, pass catching kind of a back. And then he dealt with some injuries over the last 2 years that you could just tell like he wasn't right. He just, even when he was on the field, he was still getting back from those injuries, and they were lower body injuries. So they definitely like affected his speed, his quickness, everything like that. This year, he looks a lot more confident. It's just a really crowded backfield. Like Dameon Pierce is there and Wright is there and DeMarcus Bowman and all those guys at Florida. So he doesn't necessarily like have a ton of carries to his name. And that's, I guess, the reason why he's a sleeper. But I really do think he's going to get into an NFL camp whenever it is he gets drafted. Teams are going to see that he's got really soft hands. He's a natural third down back. He's got the speed. He's got the quickness. And I think the best days are ahead of him. I honestly do.
Love those picks. And just speaking to Jordan Whittington, have to love his emotion and the fact that he's emerging as a true WR1, WR2 with Josh Moore out there. Big things for a Texas offense. We'll go to Dylan next. And Trevor, if you have anything to speak on mine, Andrew, and Dylan's prospects, just feel free to go ahead and let us know what you think. So Dylan, you're up.
Liam, I know you're going to like this because I know you wrote about him earlier in the year, but Verone McKinley is my sleeper. I kind of started the year thinking he's definitely a guy that could rise up some draft boards, and he's really excelled in every game this year, despite the fact that Oregon's defense has kind of like statistically not been where it should be by their standards. But I mean, 5 interceptions in the first 4 games. He's just the general of that defense. I think he's one of the smartest players that in recent memory Oregon has had in that secondary. And he's kind of, there's not a whole lot of film on him aside from this year because they had such a crowded safety room with Javon Holland, Nick Pickett, Brady Breeze. And now it's kind of his secondary, and he's really taken, that title by the throat. So I'm really excited to see him kind of skyrocket as the season goes on. I still haven't really seen him in a lot of mock drafts the last couple of weeks since like that Ohio State game where he kind of made himself known on the national scale. But hopefully by season's end, he'll be up there.
Love that pick. Verone's just knowledge, intelligence. he's got such a bright future ahead of him, even if it's not on the football field. He could talk about any sport you want, basketball, football, baseball. He's just an intelligent mind. We'll go to you for your next pick, for your picks, Andrew.
All right. Well, one of the first sleepers, I actually saw him a little bit in 2020. It's Fedarian Mathis, the interior defensive lineman for Alabama. He didn't get a lot of snaps for Bama in 2020 because Christian Barmore kind of had that slot. But after getting drafted, Mathis stepped into that starting role, and he's been stellar this season. He already has 3.5 sacks in the short part of the season that we've seen. 6'4", 312. So that's an ideal size for someone you would want on the interior. And for a defensive tackle, usually you want them to be like great against run, which he is very good against the run, but he's also a good pass rusher from the interior. And I think that's a very valuable thing that a defensive tackle can bring to a team. I feel that pressure from the interior is it's very good for a defense, because usually you have your edge rushers and your interior is like, they're kind of there to just stop the run. But if you can get pressure from the inside, that gives your edge rushers a heck of a lot more room to work with. And going for my second sleeper, I'm going to go to Colorado State, where we see Trey McBride play a amazing tight end position, 6'4", 260, really soft hands. One of the first things I saw with him, he has a heck of a catch radius. Like, he's not going to be a guy that's going to be jumping over people for catches, but if a ball's like thrown slightly out of his range, he's still gonna be able to catch it. He's very smooth runner. He's able to make moves after the catch. He's very athletic. He's a solid blocker. I think he's someone we're going to see a lot more in the next few months.
Mathis, I just want to say Mathis is PFF's highest graded defender on Alabama. Like, he's number one. He has the best grade of any player in Alabama, which that's saying something, because Alabama's stacked on defense. And so like Mathis having the highest score, I actually think that he has a higher pass rush score than he actually has a run defense score, which normally, like you said, like he's kind of a run defense guy, but it might be sample size that's kind of like keeping that pass rush score a little bit higher because he doesn't have as many reps. But when he's getting them, he's playing really, really well. So that's definitely a big one. And I actually just had the chance to sit down and interview Trey McBride, and he was great. I mean, he's all about his business, man. And he, I think, leads the country for the tight end position in targets, in catches, in first downs, in contested catches, like everything, man. They are leaning on this guy so much. And I found out in the Toledo game earlier this year, Colorado State had 110 passing yards, and Trey McBride had 109 receiving yards. So he had all but one. And it's, you know, I asked him about like being that workhorse, and I asked him about that game specifically, and he said that he didn't even realize it at the time. Somebody had to tell him afterwards, but he loves being that workhorse. He loves being that mule. I know a lot of people talk about like multi-sport backgrounds when it comes to prospects, because a lot of people like that, but he's a 3-sport background guy. He played football, basketball, and baseball in high school, and he didn't just dabble in them. He has his high school's career record for points scored in basketball, and he also has the high school record for his school in home runs and RBIs. So like the dude was a beast at all of the sports that he played. So anybody that likes those multi-sport backgrounds for Trey McBride, they're gonna like him a lot.
Trey McBride is the GOAT. We're actually going to talk about him a little later, as well as, I'll spoil it, he's my rising prospect. He is just an absolute freak, production monster, long bright road ahead of him in the NFL. Speaking to my sleepers real quick, one of them just saw his brother get traded today. Stephon Gilmore traded to the Panthers. I'm going with Stephen Gilmore, cornerback from Marshall. Yeah, the parents named their kids Stephen and Stephon. Very similar, very interesting there. But Stephen is one heck of a football player, high level of intelligence, very talented corner, lockdown. He plays with good physicality, good fundamentals. He's very aggressive and uses his instincts to the best of his ability. Good tackler as well in open space, great ball skills. I really like Stephen Gilmore, and he's a special teams ace, and you just have to love that. Guy from Marshall, so, you know, he might have to use the special teams early in his NFL career to get onto the field. So that's something that's really good. And then The running back from South Dakota State, number 20, Pierre Strong Jr., one heck of a player. Love watching the South Dakota State team when I'm actually able to, because they're tough to watch with their TV setup and everything. A lot of ESPN Plus for them, but Strong's very good. He's run for 486 rush yards and 5 touchdowns on 55 carries this year. I came into this season with high expectations for him, and he's just hit out of the ballpark, man. He's been fantastic. It started with that game against Colorado State where they flooded Colorado State. Yeah, McBride was good, but Strong was good too. 13 carries for 138 and 2 touchdowns. I think while he is a junior, he's a name to watch for this upcoming NFL draft if he does leave early. Super elusive and strong, has a really good build at 5'11", 205, and his burst, how he gets to that next level so quick, just one heck of a player to watch. So I love Pierre Strong Jr. And we could get into it right here with our number 1 prospect. I'm sure we all have the same guy, so let's go with you first, Trevor.
I don't know if we all have the same guy, because actually when I was sitting here thinking about it, I thought to myself, there's really, as far as I see it right now, I think there's 3 options, and none of them are a quarterback to me. I think that we're going to see a non-quarterback position go number 1 overall this year. I really do. I'm not so sure the quarterback class is as bad as people think that it is at the moment, but I think that it really comes down to 3 prospects when I think of overall. I think Kyle Hamilton is one of them, the safety from Notre Dame. I mean, the dude's just so rare, right? I mean, we had Isaiah Simmons a couple of years ago, and we couldn't stop gushing about him. And he got into the league, and Arizona didn't know exactly where to use him. Okay, are you a strong safety? You're an off-ball linebacker? Like, are you a slot guy? Like, how are we using you here? And it took them a little bit to really get it down, but I think they're kind of more comfortable with him. Kyle Hamilton is, I think, he's a little bit more confident in that hybrid role where, Venables, just what he does at Clemson is just very different, and it's not really translatable. I just think there's a lot of ways that Isaiah Simmons was implemented at Clemson that just weren't going to be the case in the NFL. I think Kyle Hamilton's a little different. I think he's more versatile than he is completely unique like Isaiah Simmons was. And so I think that Kyle Hamilton's just an unbelievable talent. The 2 other players, trench guys, Kayvon Thibodeau from Oregon, monster, man. I mean, he's just the next best pass rusher in the making. I think that when he's been on the field, I think he's been making that very, very evident. And the other one is an offensive tackle. If a team really needs an offensive tackle, Evan Neal is incredible from Alabama. Not only is he just physically gifted athletically, but he puts up the tape that puts it right to exactly what he wants, right? You sometimes get these athletic freak kind of players. Like I think about Greg Robinson when he was coming out of Auburn a long time ago. And you look at this guy and you go, man, this is one of the most athletic offensive linemen I've ever seen. This guy's got to pan out. And he didn't. He just never did. He wasn't able to put that athleticism functionally into his craft. I think Evan Neal does. He does it on a weekly basis. He does it on a snap-by-snap basis, and he's one of the best. And so, anytime it's not a quarterback, and I'm curious to hear if you guys think that a quarterback is going number 1. If you do, I have a feeling I know which one. But if it's not going to be a quarterback, it really kind of depends. It just depends what this team is going to need. And as I see it right now, I think that those are 3 prospects that you can make the case for going number 1 overall. If I had to name a number 1 overall prospect, I'd probably say Thibodeau. I would probably say that it's Kayvon, just because he does get the plus from his edge position that he plays. But all 3 of those guys I can make an easy case for.
I think those are 3 very strong candidates that will certainly be up there in the spring. Dylan, let's hear it from you. I know who you're picking, so let's hear it.
I mean, I went into this thinking Kayvon. I really love the Kyle Hamilton pick. I love the Isaiah Simmons comparison. I think Kyle Hamilton, no matter where you put him on the field, he's going to produce, and he's going to know that position very, very well. And I think that's going to translate, wherever he goes. I mean, Kayvon, you talk about when he's on, he is on. I mean, I was in the stands as a media member for the Pac-12 championship game against USC. And that was one of the most, I've never seen a more dominant college football player than that. When he was going up against Elijah Vera Tucker, that was just a masterful performance. And I got to watch Penei Sewell for a couple of years. And I still think Kayvon was just the most impressive, just absolutely poised defensive end I'd ever watched. And you know, some people talk about consistency, right? He gets off to slow starts. This year, you talk about the injury, but I just feel like the talent is there. I feel like the knowledge is there. You're talking about a guy who could possibly run a sub 4.5 40 in the combine. I could see it happening. Maybe that's a hot take, but I do think that he's going to break some records for defensive ends at that combine. So I would go Thibodeau. If it's a quarterback, I feel like most people are going to say Rattler. I don't know if we've seen that this year. I feel like Carson Strong has probably been that guy for me that I think would be the first quarterback taken in the draft.
Let's hear from you, Andrew. Are you going with the edge rusher from Oregon as well?
Yeah, I mean, attesting to what Trevor said, the quarterback class hasn't been stellar this year. Obviously, we've been blessed with amazing classes last few years. So I would say Thibodeau is the number one prospect. I will, however, differ from Dylan's take about Carson Strong. I actually think it would be Malik Willis who would be the first quarterback taken. I think he's been the best quarterback this year. He just shows amazing talent, both running and passing the ball. So if a quarterback were to go first to a quarterback needy team, I do think it would be Malik Willis that would be catching more eyes.
I would subscribe to that. I think that if we're going to get a quarterback who goes number one, I think that the heaviest odds is for Malik to be that guy. He brings you the high floor with the running ability, and he brings you the high ceiling with the arm talent. I was at a quarterback camp this past summer, and Sam Howell was there, DJ Uyunglele was there, Malik Willis, Keaton Slovis, Jeff Sims. I mean, we had a ton of guys there, and they were there kind of like running a kids camp, so they weren't exactly throwing, but at the end of the second day of the camp, they all kind of like got together and they stepped in a little bit and they were throwing. And it was just so evident that Malik Willis was a step above arm talent wise. I mean, like Matt Corral was there as well. And not that any of those guys were like bad person. I wouldn't say that they had like bad arm strength, but like that ball fires off of Malik Willis's wrist. I mean, it's just an absolute rocket. When it comes to arm talent, this dude's got it. He's so athletically gifted. And I think if we're going to get a quarterback, it is number one overall. It is because Malik Willis has played so well that he gets into that spot. So that would be my heavy betting favorite as well.
I think the word to use with Malik is just a term we all love to use now. It's just different.
He's totally different.
For my number one prospect, I went with Kayvon. Y'all spoke on him a lot, so we'll just kind of move along real quickly into our favorite prospects. Let's hear from you first, Andrew.
One of my favorite prospects that I've been high on, even though he's been dealing with a few injuries, is Tyke Smith, the DB from Georgia. I just love versatile DBs. One of my favorite players in the 2020 draft was Antoine Winfield. No bias, of course. I just love safeties or just DBs in general that can play at multiple levels. Tyke, he can play high. He can play. See, Bruin agrees with me. He can play high. He can play in the box. He can play in the slot. He'll succeed wherever he is. He's a very athletic DB who isn't afraid of the physical side of the game. He will get in your face. He will put you on the ground. He will make his presence known. And I think that a lot of teams are going to be eyeing him this upcoming spring and with the rest of the season, of course.
Love that pick. He was so fun to watch at West Virginia too. We'll roll with you next, Trevor.
I have two that I really like. Chris Olave is one of them. I wouldn't say they're like sleepers. They're bigger guys, but like Chris Olave is one of them. He's so good, man. I mean, like since the very beginning when we've been seeing him since the freshman season, he just understands playing receiver so well. He has such elite body control. Yeah, I mean, people look at Ohio State and they go, oh, well, like Garrett Wilson's the better athlete. Like, okay, I'll agree that Garrett Wilson, I think, is a better athlete. Chris Olave is the better wide receiver. You know, he just like, he understands it. He gets route running. His hips are so fluid. He sets defenders up so well. And I don't mean that in any slight to Garrett Wilson, because he's also really damn good. But like Olave just understands it so well. He's got unbelievable feet. I'm a sucker for wide receivers that have such great feet. I have Jerry Jeudy as my wide receiver one that year when it was Henry Ruggs, CeeDee Lamb, and Jeudy, and like all of them, right? I think Rager was in that class too. Wait, was that Justin Jefferson's year as well?
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah.
Oh, geez,
that was such a good class.
Unreal class. But I had Jerry Jeudy number one overall. And the reason was because dude's feet were incredible. And I mean, like when this dude's on, I mean, he gives you the blueprint to go up against some of the best corners in the world and beat them and gain separation on them because of how good he is there. And Chris Olave kind of gives you that same thing. I don't think he's as quick as Judy was, but he's so great. And then the other one that I absolutely love is Kyron Williams, the running back from Notre Dame. Notre Dame's offensive line sucks this year. I don't think there's any way around it. And so he's not getting the holes. He's not finding the daylight nearly as good as he was before. And I'll say that Notre Dame's superior offensive line last year definitely helped Kyron out because he's not the greatest athlete. He doesn't have the greatest straight line speed. He's not the most agile guy in the world. I mean, I think athletically, I think that he's average when it comes to running backs going to the NFL. Obviously, still unbelievable compared to normal people like me. But I think that when it comes to athleticism for running back, he's average. But the thing you love about him is like his heart, man, his passion, his energy for the game. I mean, you watch this guy in pass protection. He's taking on pass rushers that outweigh him by 40, 60, 80 pounds. And he's just going straight into him, blocking him straight up, chop blocking him the way that he should. Great energy, great strength, great fundamentals, fearless attitude. I love that. This dude can have as long of a career as he wants in the NFL because of the mentality that he brings to pass blocking. And I think that he treats third down work and things like that just as important as he believes it is when he has the ball in his hands. And so that's why I just absolutely love him, man. I think those are two dudes who could play in the league for a long, long time.
Great picks from you, Trevor. Love the emotion that you're showing here, the passion, the fieriness. Gotta love that. Even out here in October, we get fired up about draft prospects. It's the NFL draft's just one of the best events there is from start to finish. Dylan, does your favorite prospect play football in Eugene or does he play somewhere else?
He plays in the Pac-12. One of my favorites is Devin Lloyd, who plays linebacker at Utah. I cannot rave about this dude enough. This dude is, I can feel he's going to be like a future Baltimore Raven, Pittsburgh Steeler, somewhere that is just, they talk about, toughness on defense at that linebacker spot. I mean, this guy, no matter where you put him, I think he can produce inside linebacker, outside linebacker. He's just the captain of that defense. And I feel like, he can play. He's one of the best linebacker prospects I've seen in pass coverage. He can drop back and really play just some damn good coverage. I think he's got really good safety skills, got great feet, great hands. He's got a couple picks this year, I think. And he's also one of my spring risers. I think once he gets to that Senior Bowl, I feel like people are going to start putting him in that kind of top 15 range in the draft. And I absolutely love, guys like Carson Strong and Kayvon as well. I mean, had a couple classes with Kayvon, got to watch him in person. So, I obviously will follow him as far as he goes in the draft. And I expect him to go number one, but, with the injury this year, hopefully that doesn't derail that. But, Devin Lloyd, I think he's going to be probably the first linebacker taken. That might be a hot take, but I absolutely love him.
No, he's definitely rising up boards, man. I see a lot more people talking about him. I just had the chance to sit down and talk with him recently, and I love his mentality towards everything. I mean, he just, whether things go the right way or the wrong way, he just approaches it with such a great attitude. Obviously, if it's something that goes well, he commits it to memory. He knows why it went well. He continues to replicate it. And if things don't go well, he lets it be a learning lesson. He doesn't get down in the dumps. He doesn't get like pissed or like at himself or anything like that. He takes a lot of things as learning lessons, and there's such a maturity to his game. And I think that you see that on the field. And I was super impressed when I was able to sit down with him. And I agree, man. I think that I don't know if he's going to be the first linebacker taken, just because I don't know how we're classifying certain guys, but like off-ball linebackers, he's, back into the first round, early second round, something like that. I think that saying that he's top 50 is well within reason of what he could be come draft weekend.
Yeah, Devin Lloyd is going to be one of those NFL draft crushes over on Twitter for sure. For my favorite prospect, if for those who know me, they know it's Carson Strong, the QB from Nevada. I was projecting him for a long while to be in that QB 2-3 discussion. And who knows, maybe he is in that one discussion with Malik and Rattler and whoever else. But I just love Carson Strong, and the lackluster play from QBs in this season really helps him out because he and Malik Willis have stood out so much. He doesn't have an arm. He has a bazooka. Just please let him throw to Romeo Doubs over the top more. I don't know why they're not letting him do that more, but just one heck of a player. Throws it all over the field, NFL throw after NFL throw. There are questions about his knee, and I think that's okay that the questions are there. They're warranted. The worst he looked with his knee was against Kansas State on an ESPN Plus game a few weeks ago. He could not move in the pocket at all. He was so stagnant, like a statue. It was really rough to watch. But when his knee is moderately healthy and he can move out in the pocket. He can make throws on the run. There's a throw he made against Utah State where he threw a touchdown dubs last year, and he just gave him a jump ball, rolled out the pocket, threw it up on the run. Just arm talent, man. Such a nutty throw. Yeah, I just love him. He's got insane throw power, and he has immaculate touch as well. He's able to utilize that. We saw that last week against Boise State, a throw over the middle on third down where he has thread the needle, and just one heck of a player. I can't speak highly enough about Carson.
Carson's awesome. I really liked him going into the year, and I feel like a lot of people were pushing back on me. They're like, no, he's not that good. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I feel like he gives you those rare moments of touch on passes that other QBs just don't. And so like, I'm always kind of a sucker for that, because touch to me is instinct. If you ask any player, like what the main element of like being good at their position is, I think a lot of them would just tell you it's instinct, right? It's those instances where like you just have to make a decision. Your body has to go a certain way. You've got to raise your hands. You've got to throw the ball. Your feet have to go a certain way. And you almost just don't even think about it. You just do it. And I think the best players would tell you that the ones with the best instincts often make the biggest impact. And I think touch for a quarterback is the biggest. Other than, like decision making is obviously something that's big on instincts too. But when you're throwing it, touch is the biggest indicator for me of instincts, because it's just something it's almost like it can't be taught. Like it's just so natural. Touch is just so natural. And I feel like Carson Strong does that really, really well. And so that's why I loved him going into the year. That's why I think he's a really good quarterback prospect. So I agree.
That's a really dope insight hearing that from you too about touch. Someone last year, Zach Wilson, he had immaculate touch on his throws, and he rised all the way up. So yeah, those quarterbacks with it doesn't matter where you play. Can we just stop with that too? It doesn't matter where you play. If you're talented, they're going to find you. Carson Strong, while he's playing in the Mountain West, he's got those elite traits that we all see. We all obsess over them. So one heck of a career coming his way. We'll go into risers too. We'll start with you, Trevor.
So this is like guys who you think are gonna like come up like late in the process, like kind of like so in the spring. So a guy that I thought of as a decent candidate for this is Kenneth Murray, the running back from Michigan State. One point earlier in the season, he led the country in forced missed tackles. He just has a knack for making guys miss, for running players over. And when I thought of this question, I thought of guys like Michael Carter and Javonte Williams from UNC. And I think that people who were able to watch them during the season liked what they saw. But really, I felt like it wasn't until a little bit of January, but like February and March, when people started really getting in on the Javonte Williams train. Like they really kind of started to watch his film and were like, holy cow, this dude's different. And I think that that's kind of the way that people are going to view Kenneth Murray. And I think that that's or not Kenneth Murray, Kenneth Walker. And I just think that that's probably his path right now, because there's not a set running back who's like RB1, like unquestioned RB1. So I think that we're going to do a lot of uncovering throughout this running back class over the couple of months that come after the season, where people are really going to dig into a lot of other tape. And I think that Walker's going to get a ton of fans. I just think that he's going to get a lot of fans because of what he can do as a ball carrier with making guys miss and running people over and things like that. So I think that he'll be a spring riser. I'll go with Kenneth Walker, the running back from Michigan State.
I think Walker's a fantastic pick, especially in this RB class where it really is unknown who the top, 1, 2, 3 guys are going to be. While next year's class, 2023,
studs.
Golly, every Bijan and Zach. Let's not talk about that. We could talk about that next year, but let's go you for your riser, Dylan.
I'm going to go with a couple quickly Big Ten receivers. I like Jahan Dotson and I like David Bell. And I think with David Bell, it's kind of like that quarterback situation with Purdue. Is there going to be consistency with different quarterbacks? I feel like he's just a stud no matter who's throwing him the ball. And in terms of Dotson, I mean, that guy's as explosive as it gets. He can stretch the field. He's got a great catch radius, super explosive, super fast. I think he's probably the best Big Ten receiver not playing in Columbus, Ohio. And he's not big. I mean, he's 5'11" and 182, but he's definitely flashy. That's for sure. I think he's going to go, once he gets to that Senior Bowl, I feel like that's kind of, you're going to get to see that, that talent against some of the best talent in the country. And David Bell is just rock solid. And I feel like once the year goes on and he plays better competition, I think people are going to see what he's about.
Great picks from you, Andrew. You love the NFL draft. Excited to hear your riser.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a guy that I know you're very high on, Lehman. That's Khalil Shakir, the wide receiver from Boise State. Khalil Shakir, he's not the fastest guy. He's a good separator, in my opinion. But where he's going to make his money is the run after catch. Trying to tackle Shakir in the open field is like trying to catch a bar of soap in the shower. It's impossible. Like, you see him run, he is just so slippery. He is able to just run around you. He can make some sort of a move and get past you. He's very, very quick. He has a good burst of acceleration. I like his hands. He's got a very good catch radius. And I think that Khalil Shakir, he's going to get a lot of looks at an event like the Senior Bowl.
We could talk about Khalil Shakir all day. What a stud. My riser is, as we've already talked about, Trevor and Andrew spoke on them, Trey McBride. I think we live in a world where he can easily be that tight end one draft as the tight end one. I think we do live in that world. I think the path is there. When people really start to grind the tape and figure out who they like, McBride is just going to shoot up draft boards. Us three, maybe Dylan's high on them too, but we're all super high on them. You spoke to his athletic background, the baseball, the basketball, just a freak athlete, really good route runner too, the massive catch radius. He's a mauler. He's a nasty blocker. He wants to do everything he can to get his team to win. He plays on a bad Colorado State team. His production is absurd, and he's showing out every single week. He's going to get these looks from the NFL. He's going to impress so many people. He's scorching hot right now, and he's going to continue to rise. And his run after the catch ability is sick too. Super strong, good footwork as well. So I really like Trey McBride. Let's go on to our player focus. So for player focus, it's highlighting someone that we think is going to have a big game, or a game that we're looking forward to from. So we'll start off with you for player focus for this Saturday, Trevor.
Oh, well, it was muted. I think it was muted. Somebody who I think is going to have a big day. I'll stick in the SEC. I'll go Trey Williams, the pass rusher from Arkansas, going up against an Ole Miss offensive line that showed that it was a little bit vulnerable last week against Alabama. Now, everybody shows that they're vulnerable against Alabama because it's Alabama. But I think that Trey Williams is having a fantastic season. He's, I think, really come on since transferring from Temple. Him and John Ridgeway in the middle of that defense, I think they're doing a fantastic job. There have been a couple of situations where Arkansas has really leaned on the game plan of only rushing 3 guys, and yet those 2 guys continue to get home. I think that Williams is really taken his game up to another level since coming into the SEC, and I think it's a vulnerable matchup here. I'm not so sure that Ole Miss's offensive line is as bad as it looked last week against Alabama, but it doesn't get easier, at least up front, when it comes to Arkansas. I think that Arkansas is going to give them everything that they can handle. So I'll go with Trey Williams. I'm expecting a big day from him, and it's been a big season. So I'll say that that's going to continue here this week.
Great pick. We'll cut to you real quick, Andrew.
I'm focused on 2 future SEC teams. That's the Red River rivalry, Texas versus Oklahoma. I want to see how Casey Thompson plays. Texas's offense has looked revitalized with Steve Sarkisian, and I want to see how they play against an improved Oklahoma defense. If they're going to beat Oklahoma, Casey Thompson has to have an incredible day.
Yeah, great pick. Unfortunately, we lost Dylan. His internet just cut out, so that's really unfortunate. 'Tis life, I guess.
Maybe he could join us in like 10 minutes. Maybe it'll pop back on.
Hopefully, that's super unfortunate. My player focus, I went to the FCS last week for Eric Bartier, the Eastern Washington quarterback. Going back to it here, I spoke about him as a sleeper. Pierre Strong Jr., number 2 South Dakota State's hosting number 8 Southern Illinois, high-level FCS clash. Gotta love those. And yeah, I mean, I already spoke to Strong, so he's just one heck of a player that's gonna impress a lot of people. I'm expecting a big game from him with a lot more touches since this is their first true test. I mean, Colorado State was too, but they blew him out and stopped giving him the ball. So I think he'll get a lot of touches here. I think he's going to impress a lot of people. Really random fact too. He's 6 for 6 in his career passing for 168 yards and 3 touchdowns. Hello?
That's great. That's awesome.
That's pretty good.
And then another guy to watch for South Dakota State, a future NFL draft prospect, receiver Jaden Yonke. Loved watching him. He impressed me a lot when they played Colorado State. Got a twin brother, Jackson, who also plays receiver on the team. So the Yonke brothers got a quarterback named Odoikin at South Dakota State, and Pierre Strong Jr. Really fun offense, fun team to watch when you actually can.
Man, you're my new go-to South Dakota State guy, because I haven't watched any of these players yet, so I got to keep tabs on you to make sure that you fill me in on these guys.
I'm sure you'll really like Strong. He is a joy to watch.
All right, noted. He'll be one of the next guys I watch.
Bet. So yeah, unfortunately we did lose Dylan, so we don't have his picks for this game, for these 10 games that we're picking. Hopefully he can come in. Our first game is Friday night. It's Stanford at Arizona State. Arizona State just knocked off my Bruins. That was very predictable. Stanford just shocked Oregon. Golly, what a performance from Stanford. Let's go you for this one first, Trevor. Who do you have winning this game?
I don't love either of these teams, but both of them are obviously riding high, right? Stanford's coming off the win against Oregon. Arizona State's coming off Jaden Daniels, probably best performance of the season, one of the best performances of his career, played super well last week. I'm still not fully bought in on Arizona State. I'm still shaky. I feel like we could have a different Jaden Daniels show up every single week. I don't know if Stanford's the team to really push him to that. So I probably should be picking Arizona State, but I'll say that I have more faith in Tanner McKee, the quarterback from Stanford, who led a really big comeback last week. And he's one of the risers in the NFL draft. I think we're going to start to hear his name a lot more. So I'll go with Stanford in this one.
Stanford for Trevor. Is it Stanford for you, Andrew, or are you going with the Sun Devils?
I'm going to go with the Sun Devils. I just think it's the slightly safer pick. So I am going to go with them. I do think Stanford's going to be kind of riding high after the win over Oregon, but it kind of sucks because Stanford was one of the colleges I wanted to go to. So, but you know what? Arizona State, you're going to win.
And you're out there rowing the boat in Minnesota, so you're all good, except when you lose the Bowling Green.
Shut up.
I've got, sorry. Did that really happen? I have Arizona State winning 31-20. Rashad White, DeMonte Trainum, fun running back duo at ASU. The guy to watch on Stanford is Caillou Blue Kelly. Easy guy to notice. He's going to be the one, the white uniform wearing black socks on defense, the only one that does. Love watching Caillou Blue Kelly. Went to Bishop Gorman here in Vegas. And then ASU, Merlin Robertson and Chase Lucas, I think, are 2 NFL draft guys that people will start to really like in the spring. I think Merlin's a super fun linebacker. Red River's our next game, Oklahoma against Texas. Huge game here. Andrew, what do you have for us?
I know I'm going to regret this, but Longhorn Nation, we're back. I think Oklahoma's vulnerabilities finally come back to bite them in the butt. I think Texas has looked really good offensively, and I'm going to put hope in the Sarkisian offense, and I think that Rattler's not going to have a great day. Maybe this is the day he gets it going. That would be good for them, beating their biggest rival, but I like the Longhorns here.
What about you, Trevor?
This one's close. The thing is that Spencer Rattler's got 7 turnover-worthy plays according to PFF this year. So I mean, like he's putting the ball in danger, no doubt about it. But Texas's defense isn't really the kind of defense that would capitalize on it. I mean, they only have 3 interceptions so far this season. 2 of them came against Texas Tech, I believe. And so, it's just they're not a team that's capitalized or forced a lot of turnovers. And so I look at this, and both of these teams are top 15 in the country in terms of scoring. And so I think Texas can hang with Oklahoma, but their best scorers are their running backs, no doubt about it. I think the top 3 players actually on their team when it comes to PFF grades are their running backs. And so we know that they're gonna do things on the ground, and that's how they want to run it. I guess I'll go Oklahoma. I hate it, but I guess I'll go Oklahoma here. I wish I had more faith in Texas defense to force more turnovers, but because I think that's the key. If they get them, I think Texas will win. But I'm not so sure they got the ball skills or that they would be able to capitalize on it. So I guess I'll go Oklahoma here.
Yeah, I mean, you could pick either side here and just hate what you picked. DeMarvian overshown. I'm curious, as the no context CFB guy, I'm very curious to see how many sweatbands, armbands he's wearing. He always wears like 50 of them, it seems. So
yeah,
see how many he's wearing. I'll count them this week, I swear. I'm going with Texas 37-34. Let's have some Dicker the Kicker magic. Why not? What about a game winner? I'll just go all out. And I'm just excited to watch Bijan again. He is one of a kind. Love watching him. And it's about time people realize he's RB1, because I got some hate for ranking him as my RB1 coming into the year. But the vision is being seen. He is different. Our next game is Arkansas at Ole Miss. 2 teams just came off of disappointing beatdowns against superior opponents. Trevor, who's your pick?
Yeah, I'll go Ole Miss in this one. It's at Ole Miss, and so I think that really helps them. Like I said, Ole Miss's offensive line was really overwhelmed against Alabama. They just got straight whooped up front. Where Arkansas's defensive line is also good, I don't think they have the coverage on the back end to exactly be able to match what Alabama was able to do, right? Because Alabama pairs really great coverage with really great pass rush. And I think that Arkansas got great pass rush, but even Jalen Catalon, the safety for Arkansas, who I love, he's more of a thumper. He's more of a come downhill, get tackles on you. He's less of a single high kind of a coverage guy. So I'll say that Ole Miss kind of finds a way to spread and shred them. And I'll say that Ole Miss is going to come out with a win here.
Lane train for Trevor. Is it lane train for you too, Andrew?
It is lane train. I'm gonna make sure my popcorn is ready. I'm gonna make sure I'm watching this game. I got Ole Miss pretty big. I think that Arkansas had an awful performance against Georgia. I understand Georgia is one of the top defenses in the country, but that offensive performance was just putrid. I really like Ole Miss's offense led by Matt Corral, and yeah, attesting to Arkansas's defensive line. They're good, but on the back end, it's not great. You'll see a lot of 3 rushers for Arkansas in this game.
Yeah, they got smoked last week, and our guest Dave Pash said they were not going to be able to score. And well, he was definitely correct there. And if you want to just flip the headset off, you already gave the popcorn line. Just flip that headset off like Mr. Kiffin did. I'm going with Ole Miss 34-20. I don't think things get easier for Arkansas. Murderer's Row continues for them. I think Lane Kiffin's going to cook up the better game plan, and Corral's going to impress once again. SEC country for our next game too. Georgia at Auburn. I think we're all Georgia here, correct?
Yeah. I'm not picking Auburn. There's no way I'm picking against this Georgia team. I don't care if it's home or away.
Yeah, so we'll skip over to the next one. But hey, maybe Auburn does shock people because, Bo Nix, he's improved so much under his new offense. He's focused. He's having fun. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a dark horse for the Heisman, right?
No.
No? I have to throw the copy pasta out there. I'm sorry. Penn State at Iowa, a much better game with just, why isn't this college game day? I don't know. What's your pick for this one, Trevor?
This is kind of a like who's real and who's not game, right? Because you look at Penn State and you go, okay, they're one of the best defenses in the country, only allowed 12 points per game. That's incredible when you look at the offense that they played. Ball State's 113th, Wisconsin's 117th, Indiana's 96th, right? There's only 130 teams to choose from. So it's like when you start getting that low, you're talking about some of the lowest scoring teams in the country. Now, is that because of Penn State? Or is that just because these teams suck at offense? Now, Iowa's not the biggest juggernaut on offense either, although they are a top 50 team in that regard. but it's just it's kind of going to be a who's for real and who's not game. I'll go with Iowa because I don't really trust Sean Clifford. I don't. I think that this is a good Iowa secondary. This is a good group that he's going up against, and I think he's going to turn the ball over. And I think the reason why you've seen Penn State win is because he's been able to be careful with the ball, and I think that changes this week. And I think Iowa will take advantage. So I'll go Iowa here.
Could you see Riley Moss getting an interception in this game?
Yes, why not?
Indiana. All right, Riley Moss interception. Why not? Andrew, do you go with Iowa?
Unfortunately, I do. I don't like either of these teams offensively. I think they both have great defenses, but I think Iowa is up there with defenses like with the likes of Georgia. I think that their defense sets them up in amazing positions offensively. They get the ball in their opponent's territory. I think that if Iowa can convert on offense early, I would like them to hold the lead the entire game.
Yeah, I went with Iowa 24-17, looking for Sam Laporta, the tight end, to have a clutch touchdown. Again, Trey McBride, spoke about him earlier, freak athletic background. What about Tyler Linderbaum? He played scout team receiver, wrestling, shot put, baseball, basketball, whatever it be. He played everything. Best center in the country. How can you not love Tyler Linderbaum?
Yeah, he's great. I love offensive linemen that have wrestling backgrounds, man. You just have so much core strength, so much body control. That's always, anytime I have a scouting report where an offensive lineman has a wrestling background, I pay attention. That definitely. So I love that about Linderbaum. He's the best center in the country, no doubt about it.
Everyone needs to invest in Linderbaum. He's going to be so good. Our next game has a lot of good talent too. It is UTSA at Western Kentucky, the Conference USA showdown. Andrew, what's your pick?
I hate picking against the Roadrunners because I really like how they've looked this season, but I think Western Kentucky has such a potent offense led by Bailey Zappi. They're a 1-3 team that could easily be 3-1. They had very small losses to Army and Indiana. And I think that they finally get everything rolling, and I'm going to take Western Kentucky by 11.
What do you have, Trevor?
Yeah, I don't know a lot about these two teams outside of kind of like the broad headlines, but I do know that Western Kentucky throws for 440 yards per game, and they're number one in the country in passing offense. So give me that. I'll take that to outscore UTSA.
All right, this game pains me that I have to pick against one of these teams because UTSA and WKU are really two of my favorite teams in the country to watch. I'm going with Western 38-31. I think the offense is going to be too much, even though it's an elite UTSA defense. A bunch of guys to watch in this game. I'll just rattle them off. On UTSA, Frank Harris, the QB, Zachary Franklin, the receiver, Sincere McCormick at running back, Rashad Wisdom, my dude at safety, Antonio Parks, the other safety. Wisdom, by the way, hardest hitting player in the country. Don't care. Jalen Haynes on the defensive line. Versatile, plays everywhere on the defensive line. Surprisingly fluid in his movement for the big guy that he is. Western Kentucky, Bailey Zappi threw the ball 64 times last game against Michigan State. He is a stud. I think he needs to get NFL looks at quarterback. And his receiver, who he played with at Houston Baptist as well, Jarrett Stearns, had 17 catches for $186 last week in a touchdown against Michigan State. Stearns is a freak too that's going to need NFL love. Our next game is TCU Texas Tech. Andrew, what's your pick?
I'm still not sure about Texas Tech's defense. I don't think that they're very good. But I honestly don't care for either of these teams. I'm going to take TCU though.
Do you care for either of these teams, Trevor?
I don't know if TCU controls the game enough to keep Texas Tech off the scoreboard. Like, I know TCU is good on third downs, but like, for as much as we like to say like, ooh, they're impressive at converting third downs, like, okay, be better on first and second down so you don't have to get the third down as much. So it's like the things that you would praise TCU on, you wish they were probably better at in a lot of different areas. And so I don't know if TCU has the ability to control the game as much as they would need to keep Texas Tech off the scoreboard. So I'll go with Texas Tech here because I just don't know if TCU's got the DNA. Maybe they do, but I think it's a better bet to say that Texas Tech's going to light up the scoreboard a little bit more.
All right, we'll see if that happens. For my prediction, hopefully it doesn't. I went with the complete opposite thing. I went with TCU lining it up in a 42-24 win. I think Zach Evans will have a monster day, and Quentin Johnston, the receiver, I think he'll have multiple touchdowns in this game. I expect TCU to bounce back after two tough losses to rivals in SMU and Texas. So I think they'll get back on the right track. Mountain West, why not? We've talked so much about it this week. Wyoming at Air Force is the game. Trevor, what's your thoughts here?
I'm going Air Force. Air Force is the number one rushing team in the country. They rush for over 300 yards every single game. They can control the game very, very well. That's their DNA. And I just don't trust Wyoming to be good enough passing the ball. I think they're ranked over 100. I think they're 106 in the country in terms of overall passing offense. And so if Wyoming was a little bit better at passing, I'd say, okay, like even if they don't hold on to the ball as much as Air Force does, they could still be able to run it up on them and score enough points. But when you can't pass the ball, you're not going to rush the ball better than Air Force. They're the number one team in the country in that regard. So I'll go Air Force. I think they control the ball. I think they run it better, and I think they're going to score more points.
You have the same take there, Andrew?
I do. I think Wyoming doesn't deserve to have the 4-0 record that they do. They barely beat UConn 2 weeks ago. They had a 3-point win against Montana State, a good FCS team, and they almost choked an entire lead against Northern Illinois. I like Air Force's offense, very good rushing the ball. And like what Trevor was talking about, I don't think they have the passing attack to keep up with it.
Yeah, I went with Air Force 2, 27-17. I think the player to watch in this game, though, is Wyoming linebacker Chad Muma. He's building a good resume. He had a really good few games to start the season. He's been a really good linebacker, building good prospect profile. I know he's got a pick 6 this year, too. Notre Dame at Virginia Tech. Enter Sandman out there in Blacksburg. Interesting game, Trevor. What's your call?
I don't really have faith in Notre Dame. I don't know if Virginia Tech's good enough to beat Notre Dame, but like, I don't have a lot of faith in Notre Dame. I just, the offensive line's not good. They don't have any players outside of Mayer. Cohen's not great. The defense is not what it usually is. I know they got Hamilton, but you know, they're losing so much talent over the last couple of years at a lot of different positions. I don't know if they're going to drop 2 in a row though. Like, right. Are they going to lose to Cincinnati and then Virginia Tech back to back? I'll say Notre Dame. I'll say Notre Dame wins, but I got, as you can tell, I do not have a lot of confidence in this one.
Oh, you might as well flip a coin for that one. Andrew, did you flip a coin or not?
I flipped a coin and it landed on Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame, a lot of their offensive struggles have to go to the offensive line. They are just not good. Kyron Williams cannot get anything going like we talked about earlier. But the biggest thing for me is I want to see them find out who their full-time quarterback is. I don't think Jack Cohn is very good. I would like to see them give more starting reps to Drew Pine. I think that he has the highest ceiling of the 3 quarterbacks, but I do like Notre Dame to beat Virginia Tech.
I need Pine and Cone to stand next to each other on the sideline so I could get that screenshot already. I've been struggling for 2 weeks to get it. I have Notre Dame 28-20. I think in addition to Michael Mayer having a big game, I think Kevin Austin needs to have a big game. So just make life easier for your quarterbacks because they've been having tremendous struggles. Our last game to pick from is LSU at Kentucky. Andrew, what do you have for us in this SEC clash?
I hate LSU. I hate LSU. They are not a good football team. I think Kentucky is a good team. I don't like the idea of LSU going into a toxic SEC environment, going up against a talented opponent. I think Kentucky wins easily.
What about you, Trevor?
Well, not easily, but I do agree. I don't really like LSU. I don't think they're a very good football team, especially with Stingley out. The unfortunate thing for Kentucky is they also, I don't think, have played as well as I thought that they were going to this year. I was really excited about Levis, and obviously they come out of the gate and they start throwing it around the yard and you go, holy cow, here we go. This is Kentucky offense. And then over the next couple of weeks, they won, but they played down to their opponent. You know, they get a pretty emotional win against Florida last week. Can they hone it in together and focus on now beating an LSU team and it's home? So I think that helps, but they're going to be without Josh Ali, one of their big time wide receivers. I think the big matchup in this one is Wan'Dale Robinson versus Cordell Flott. Both of those guys are big time slot players. Most of Wan'Dale Robinson's reps come from the slot. Most of Cordell Flott's reps as a slot corner for LSU. Flott is one of the best corners, best defensive players on LSU. I believe he's the highest graded defender on LSU. And I believe Wan'Dale Robinson is the highest graded wide receiver at Kentucky. So it's strength versus strength. I think that's where the matchup lies. But overall, I just have more faith in this Kentucky team to be better than LSU, especially with it being in Lexington. So I'll go Kentucky too.
High praise from you and PFF for both of those talented players. For me, I went with LSU. I went with LSU 31-23. I think Kentucky fluked that win last week, which there's nothing wrong with that. You got fluke wins in football. It happens. But all I got to say is I got to watch Kayshon Boutte play football again. So I'm happy either way. So that's the 10 games that we got to pick. Real good picks there. I'm sorry that Dylan had technical difficulties. Apparently someone crashed outside and hit the power cord thingy, whatever it's called. So the power, I don't know what you call them, the power tower. I have no clue. So just a true unfortunate series of events there. Yeah, that's tough. So yeah,
hopefully they're okay.
Yeah, hopefully they're okay. Yeah, definitely. And hopefully Dylan gets his connection back and hope he enjoys the rest of this podcast having to watch from the sidelines.
He gets to listen to it like everybody else does, so it's fine. He just gives you an extra download.
Yeah. Good thing we got half of his stuff in though. He definitely was able to showcase some of his knowledge there. So love to see that. It was really good talking with you, Trevor, talking the NFL draft with you too. Again, it is early. It's October, but anytime you get to talk about the draft is always a good time. So appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. This is a blast. You guys know your college football, you know your NFL draft, you guys know a lot of the big time sleepers, and it's very obvious that you guys play very close attention to college football and you know your stuff. So this is a blast, man. I love talking football. I love talking draft. And so I had a lot of fun. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, no problem. Maybe come draft time, we can get you on again or something. And if you just want to plug your socials, I know you do a podcast as well. We want to plug that stuff. Feel free to.
Yeah. So social at Tampa Bay Trey. And I haven't launched the podcast quite yet. We're still getting everything together behind the scenes, but I'm really, really excited about it. I'll just say draft fans are going to love it. So it's going to be a blast. I'm really looking forward to that coming out. But until then, for everybody who's listening, just watch the PFF live shows. We've got a college football live show at 11 a.m. every Friday. And then we've got an NFL live show at 11 a.m. every Sunday. And so I'm hosting both of those. I've got some really great analysts who are on the desk with me every single week, and they always bring the energy and the knowledge and everything. And so it's a blast. We're having a lot of fun. So yeah, I mean, those are the things I got working on.
Excited for your podcast. That'll be dope. I know everyone will love it, whether they're an NFL draft fan or not. You do very good content. So excited to see what you have. And thank y'all for listening and watching another episode of the Transfer Portal CFB podcast presented by NoContextCFB. Had a real fun time. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at TPortalCFB, at NoContextCFB. Follow us on Spotify or whatever, Apple. Subscribe to us too on YouTube. Appreciate all that stuff. So just any support for us would be greatly appreciated. Thank y'all so much, and see you guys for another video sometime.